Which one am I? Oh, this is me. Hey guys, welcome to another great episode of the Billable Hour Podcast. To my right, we have the attorney. His name is
Gigio Ninan.
To my left, we have the accountant, and his name is
Zach Gordon.
And I am your favorite entrepreneur, Ankur K Garg. So, episode 2, we have officially made it to the first video episode of the podcast, and I know what we're going to talk about today. You guys want to hear about it?
I really do.
I'm pretty excited.
We're going to talk about cancel culture.
Okay, let's get into it.
We're not going to talk about canceling your attorney or your accountant. We're going to talk about canceling the billable hour. It's probably the bane of my monthly numbers and figuring out, okay, how many hours did my attorney work or how many hours did my accountant work? But I need to hear from your perspective. So why don't we start with you, Zach? How do you feel about this billable hour concept and dealing with clients? And give us your take.
Well, to be honest, my answer is very different from a lot of the industry. A traditional accountant going back dozens and dozens of years, you must bill by the hour. You know, it's a very structured sort of environment. Personally, I hate it. I don't think it provides enough value. I don't think as business owners ourselves, I mean, we are CPAs on one hand, but we're business owners on the other. We're not getting enough value for ourselves. And there's a little concern that I would have about providing that right value to our clients. So we're almost incentivized to work slower, to not change anything because we know that, okay, if we're doing a tax return, we're doing an audit engagement, whatever it might be, you know, or that financial statement, that's going to take us 20 hours. We are not incentivized if we can do it in 10. You better believe we're still going that 20 because at the end of the day, we want to make that buck.
What I'm hearing is that accountants can be crooked if they have to be. That's what I'm hearing.
I feel like I don't want to answer that question.
Now, lawyers 100% can be crooked, but it's not this one.
No, never.
Why don't you tell us your feedback on the billable hour?
Well, I don't really like the billable hour, even though I do think it is a necessity in certain circumstances. So if you don't know what the scope of service is or what, you know, how long it's going to take, the billing by the hour is the only avenue to go.
There's
that
clients that don't give you a scope of service?
No, but for example, say litigation, you don't know how long it's going to take on a back and forth. It, you know, it could be proactive, could be reactive, and it can take a long time. We don't really know. It could take a few hours, could take hundreds of hours. So we don't know. So in those types of circumstances, you have to bill by the hourly rate. Nonetheless, I agree with Zach on this.
And I want that on the record. Thank you.
Yeah, on the record. Yes. Part of the reason I left Big Law in 2015 was to have that flexibility in being able to bill the way clients want you to bill, which is value-based billing. So you provide a service. If you have a certain scope, you can say, here's a monthly fee, here's a subscription fee, here's a flat fee based on this particular service. That being said, there are ways to increase your revenue as a lawyer or a service-based professional if you are doing certain types of volume type of work. So if you've mastered a certain type of service, and you're able to do that service within an hour and a half. But ultimately, clients, and especially for me, for example, I have a lot of Desi clients. They liked.
I'm sorry.
Desi are Indian, South Asian.
I'm sorry, Zach. Are you familiar with this term, Desi?
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you feel about Desi clients? Because we feel like your perspective might be more interesting than ours.
Considering you just said cancel culture, I definitely don't want to answer that question.
Well, I mean, for me, I believe that what Gigio is referring to is a general population of people, no matter what color or background, that tend to want to break the back of someone who's providing a service because they feel like their time is more important than the service provider.
Well, not necessarily. So the reason I say they see clients is because in India, for example, many of the lawyers do not bill hourly. They bill on like full flat fees. So say they're going into litigation, they'll say this particular phase will cost you $25,000.
No matter what.
Yeah, that's it. And so it's basically like, you know exactly what you're getting. So and that's one of the things I hate about going to a doctor's office. So you never know. You go in and you just don't know. You could
spend $25 or you don't know $250,000.
Yeah, you don't know. But in service based, so in the Desi culture, a lot of times what I've learned is that you they're expecting you to bill a certain dollar number. So that's why flat fees or alternative fee arrangements really do work for those type of clients, because they know what the bottom line is. And I think it's also beneficial for business owners, entrepreneurs like Ankur, where they know they have like a budget line that they know, hey, this is my expectation, or this is what I'm budgeting for legal services.
And I think you just hit it exactly on the head.
To get zero. For legal services for this?
Well, we'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an accounting problem.
But as someone who does work a lot with budgets, you're right. Smoothing out that number as a business owner is great. And then think about it on the other side, as a CPA, as a lawyer, even as an entrepreneur, it's one of those things that you can create this recurring revenue model where you're getting your fees over time. You know what those fees are. So instead of 1 month you're billing hourly and you're getting $1,000 the next month, the next month nothing. You can smooth that out. You can figure out what your value is, and you know that, okay, well, I know for whatever this service is, it's $500 a month, no matter what. And you can map that out over time. And all of a sudden you have control over what your revenue looks like.
But how do you handle clients that don't know how to budget properly?
Oh, well, they call me and then we figure it out. But no, that's a case-by-case sort of thing. I mean, there's always going to be challenging clients, but sometimes you have to have a firmer hand. Sometimes you have to, smooth talk your way in a little bit, but it's communication, making sure that they understand the engagement letter they're signing, the scope of work, since I know we were speaking about that before. That's the biggest thing.
I always feel like clients have no idea of the value of any professional service before they get it.
No idea. No,
no idea.
For me, for example, right? Let's say a restaurant is failing, and they come to me as a marketing guru, like, "Hey, Ankur, we need help. Our restaurant's not getting business. Like, we're gonna only be able to pay you $500." And I'm like, "Cool. Instead of paying me the $500, give me 25% of every dollar." And they're just gonna immediately say no to me, and they're like, "No, that's not what a marketing campaign is worth." I'm like, "You have no customers right now. How are you going to change your financial situation unless I do something really drastic? Like,
right.
I got to make a banger video, put it on TikTok.
Is that a technical term?
Everywhere. Yeah, a banger video is when it delivers. We're going to have to put the definition on the screen.
Exactly.
Right? But you have to put in a drastic amount of effort to change that situation. But then these clients are like, they don't have any understanding of what that costs or what that's worth. And so I always have to go in and fully explain it to them. But similarly, I also don't fully understand what a good accountant is worth and what a good attorney is worth until the attorney explains to me the risk, right? Or until the accountant handles me my IRS bill, and I'm just like, what happened here? How did this happen? Like, where did I miss out on whatever the back channel loopholes and all the things that I want to have?
And that just circles back to communication, being able to translate from whether it's law, whether it's tax, whether it's business, for lack of a better term, into something that anyone can understand. And that makes the difference between a good lawyer, a good accountant, and a great one.
I agree. So communication is key, and being able to set that communication at the outset so you can really understand what is it that you are looking for, what are your expectations as a client, what do you need, and then that professional is able to really hone in on that and then give you a value-based package based off of that. And I think that's ultimately how you have to go and search for a lawyer or an accountant or any other professional service, is to really hone in on that specifics that you're looking for.
And just speaking as the accountant here, I do think we are one of the few industries that actively negotiates against ourselves, and that's something that has to change as well. So there are two sides.
What does that mean? Actively negotiating against yourself.
So in-house, we know what our cost is. We know that, all right, someone's in-house value is X. So it's $400 per hour, let's just say. We know that we need to bill out X amount in order to make sure that, one, we're breaking even, and two, people need to make money. There needs to be some sort of profit margin built into that. And honestly, a lot of times, just in my experience, we know a bill is going to be $10,000. Without saying a word, we'll cut it to $7,500. Just to make sure we get the work, or just to make sure that we don't have to have a tough conversation. And that's something that, again, goes back to communication, but also comes to just a greater culture.
So in service-based industries, do you believe in sales managers to help bring those customers
I think that could be game-changing, because right now CPAs don't really have that sort of model, and I think it's one that could really, really be helpful.
In the legal profession, the larger law firms do have that. They don't call them sales managers. They call them business developers, practice managers within different industries. But they don't have it for smaller firms. So for a firm like mine, I am the sales manager. I am the lawyer. You're everything, right? Ultimately, and so you have to learn how to do it. Ultimately, you have to learn how to set a client's expectations. And ultimately, when it comes to clients, they expect that you're the one communicating with them, not like some third party that they've never met or they don't really know,
or even another member of the staff.
Exactly, they want to talk to you about this. And so I think ultimately, when it comes to setting expectations, it has to be done by whoever the professional is, who's the originator or the rock, the person who has the,
regardless of who's actually doing the work.
Whoever the originator is, whoever the originator of the file is the person that has to speak to the client.
And I'll be honest, some of the best partners, best professionals I've ever seen have not touched a client's work at all. And 5 minutes before a meeting or 5 minutes before a call, they'll look it over like, what's the guy's name again? Great. Click, and they're in. Yeah. And it's like they were working on it for hours and hours.
You know what I think about when you say something like that? You ever watch Matt Damon's original movie, The Rainmaker?
Yep.
You remember The Rainmaker?
Yep.
That's what I think about, because that's what, because ultimately you have to be that rainmaker in order to, and you have to generate that work. You have to communicate properly. Obviously you have to separate yourselves from all the unethical things that he was doing.
Correct.
But, if you're able to communicate properly and
that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a brilliant orator. The eloquence of it doesn't necessarily matter, but it's the confidence in which you speak and the clarity of the communication for whatever that means.
Agreed. Relationship management. That's like the phrase. So if and Ankur, I know does this better than most people that I know, is that he's able to mirror you. So if you're talking to somebody, he's able to like hone in on one or two things and then mirror what that person said and regurgitate it in another sentence. That other person thinks that, he came up with this amazing idea, but really he basically
stop giving away all his secrets.
Yeah, no, basically all he did was he repeated the sentence like before it, used it, and asked you another question. So it's active listening, right?
Right.
Active listening, and then he builds relationships on that. And I actually, I'll be honest, I stole that from his playbook.
No, I took this one course in college where the professor changed my life. He introduced me like micro expression management, body language, and how if I lean a certain way, the other person's going to lean a certain way. Everything that happens with that. I remember the first time I met someone that did it better than me, I lost my mind. So, you guys ever heard of a guy named Benny Medina?
No,
I don't think so.
Yeah, you ever seen The Fresh Prince?
Yes,
of course. Yeah.
It's about Benny Medina. It's his life.
Ah.
And so, if you read Will's book and or anything like that, Benny Medina was a guy who like managed all the big stars, J-Lo, Puff, like so on and so forth.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm in a meeting with Benny because J-Lo was interested in doing like a supplement product line with us at that time. And so, the Latinx community would love something like that.
Right.
I'm in mid-meeting and Benny's got like 3 assistants and he's like screaming at them and like it's just like crazy, right? And so like he comes back to our meeting and we're talking. I am trying to do to him what he's doing to me. But then mid-sentence while he's talking to my business partner at the time, he looks at me and winks. And I look down and I realize he just made me change my body language and follow whatever it was. And he was able to tell me that he knew that I knew that he pulled that off. And then he just kept going.
Yeah.
I was so mind blown for the rest of that meeting. I didn't know what to do.
Just meeting the Jedi Master there.
I went home and I was just like, I'm nobody. If I can't do that in a meeting, I've been trying for years to be able to pull it off in a meeting, and the only one I pulled it off with was Gigio, because he finally learned how to do some of the things that I do.
Right.
So sometimes mid-meeting, I'll like do like a hand signal that he'll recognize from like our fraternity days.
Yeah.
And he'll just look at me and be like, "What?" And then he'll realize that I just did it.
Yeah.
I'm just Benny Medina.
Yeah,
He's
no.
a character.
And I'm telling you, so ultimately, it's about just what he said. It's like it's relationships. You build relationships. You're able to actively listen, and you communicate. And if you're able to do those things with a client, you're able to generate the work. So we're not talking about. I don't think this podcast, this specific episode, is about how do you generate the work. Generating is relationship building and all those other things. But I think how do you negotiate the next steps? how do you negotiate the next steps? What are things that you should be thinking about in terms of like a service-based contract, for example, like when your engagement. So just as for all the viewers or listeners out there, an engagement agreement for for either an attorney, a lawyer, attorney, a CPA, or even a service-based marketing professional like Ankur, they have different terms, whether it be a service agreement, an independent contractor agreement, a retainer agreement. They all are the same thing. You basically have a scope of service, the basis of the fee. So what is that fee? Is it hourly? Is it flat fee? Is it alternative?
This
fee
is what you're doing.
arrangements?
This is how much. This is when.
This is how much. And then all these other provisions is there a breaking fee? Is there a termination clause? Who gets what in terms of IP
and
property,
all that. Yep.
clients? With lawyers, the client ends up owning it. But everybody else has a different. Every industry is different. Like his marketing industry, very different. He as the marketer may own the IP, and so those are the things that you have to look out for.
Only when Gigio writes the contract.
There it is.
And I'll be honest, I do write some one-sided agreements, so look out. But that's it's true, and you have to have someone look over it, or you should know before you're going into that meeting. Hey, this is what I got to watch out for.
And this comes down to managing expectations, doing your homework, going into any meeting with any professional. But ultimately, it's value. You want to make sure that both sides on any particular arrangement are getting that value that they expect. So
what I'm hearing is you guys look at value two ways, right? You either value someone for the skill set as being part of your team, but you're not sure whether you need them full time or not. So you might just engage them hourly based on their rate, and this is just open-ended hours.
Mm-hmm.
Or you say that this service is worth this value to me, and then you negotiate a contract for how to get that finish line reached within whatever time frame that person is offering their time for.
Right.
Combination. That's the answer to your question. It's a combination. I'll tell you why. Because
tell me.
Because
Please.
a skill set matters. Skill set
Yes.
automatically. Skill set always matters. But at the same time, they want to get to a finish line. They want a finished product. In the tech space, in the SaaS industry, you're working off an agile method or something. It's different than a lawyer or an accountant, for example. But at the same time, you are providing some value as a lawyer or an accountant. Say I need, for example, we used to ask me for I need a wholesale contract with X distributor in this space. Get it to me by tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah,
I never
tomorrow.
gave them that much time. Never.
It was tomorrow. Tomorrow might have been like a reach. It was usually
5:30, and we're meeting with them in 30 minutes.
Yeah, so he used to literally reach out to me. It would be like I'm stepping out the door. I'm having dinner with my wife. It's like I'm texting Sui. I'm like, hey babe, I have this. I have to do this contract. She's like, how important is this contract? And I always tell Sui, I was like, hey, listen, you know what? You know why it's important? Because they need to make money on this, and they have a meeting set for X, and if I'm able to make them money, they're going to keep me around. And that's the other way you have to think about it as a professional.
Yes.
Because for me as a lawyer, or you as an accountant, how do I save them money on certain things, right? Or
not even just that,
putting
putting yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
So you're running a business. What's important to you, and why are you coming to me or to you to extract some sort of value? And that perspective can be lost a little bit sometimes.
Yeah,
we've all been guilty there, of course, but
yeah,
that perspective really does matter.
I'm not saying don't ruin your relationships, your personal relationships for sure, but at the same time, it is important to understand where they're coming from and what their expectations are.
All right, so as we wrap up this episode, Zach, what is the one thing that you want the audience to take away from episode 2?
That you don't necessarily have to go by the billable hour. There are other ways, but communicate at the end of the day. And it's a little corny to say that, but honestly, if you don't understand how you're being billed or why, talk it out.
Hire me.
Both of them are absolutely wrong.
To review your engagement agreement.
Comment, and follow us on the Billable Hour Podcast. We'll catch you guys in episode 3. Thanks for tuning in.